when South Sudan qualified for the Olympics, sort of like everyone got to know about you now. And I was just watching some random YouTube interview on the South Sudan channel, and I heard you introduce yourself as Dzaflo Larkai, British-born Ghanaian. And I
Yes.
was really excited and inquisitive. That's how I sent the email asking to confirm your name. So could you please introduce yourself briefly and let's carry it on?
Yeah, so my name is Dzaflo Larkai. As I said, I was born and raised in London, South London. Both my parents are from Accra, Ghana, Jamestown to be precise. I'm one of the assistant coaches with South Sudan national team. Former pro player, played for 11 years, 1 year in Spain, 7 years in Japan, and 3 years in England. And I'm on this journey. This is my fourth year with the South Sudan national team. As you said, we qualified for the Olympics, which just ended for us yesterday. It was tough, but it was one of those things that
Yeah.
happened. But it's been a journey. So the first 4 years have been good, and you see what the next four are looking at.
Well, the South Sudan story, we'll talk about it later, but let's just begin. It's unfortunate, but how long gone in the competition, you've inspired so many people, considering the fact that some 15 years ago, there was no country such as South Sudan, but your incredible journey has inspired so many people. And now let's talk about your Ghanaian heritage. How
Yeah.
often have you been in Ghana, and have you been to Ghana any times, and how, like your Ghanaian roots, have you been to Ghana?
Yeah, I've been to Ghana. I've been to Jamestown. My family was, they lived around where the lighthouses. So I've been there just once, like 10 years ago. I went there with NBA Africa, in fact. I did a basketball camp with Chris Bosh. But then since then, I've just been traveling all across Ghana. But, you know, Ghana is still home. My mum went there recently because her aunt passed away. But I couldn't go because I was involved with this. But, I plan to go soon.
Do you speak any Ghanaian language or something like that?
You know, I speak a little Ghana. I don't understand Chi because my family is Ghana. So we're in the house, we speak that. I try to tell my mom, like, oh, fine, man. It's like, we're in Ghana. But, she wants to speak blah, a lot. So it's kind of tough.
So talking about you being in Ghana, that was around 2014, right?
Yeah.
So what were you in Ghana to do with the NBA or the team?
Yeah, so the NBA Africa, they were doing camps. So before the NBA academies and before the Basketball Africa League, they were just doing camps in different countries. So it was my first time there, and they'd invited Chris Bosh to do a camp at a university. And I was involved. So me and Chris were the head coaches for that camp there.
So when you came, did you make any contacts with the Ghanaian basketball authorities, or it was just the NBA staff and you are gone back?
Predominantly NBA staff. There were some people that I'd met, still in contact. Mr. Basketball, that's his moniker. So we stay in contact, and a couple other people, but I haven't been as involved because when I went, I was still playing. So I had to go back to Japan. I was there for 9 months. I'm completely focused on that. And then when I left Japan in 2017, I went back to England and I was playing still and doing my master's degree. So time just wasn't there for that until I finished my master's in 2019. And then from 2020, I became an NBA scout for Milwaukee Bucks. And then I was fully involved with South Sudan. So I've been with them. So it's been difficult to do anything back home. But, there's things going on. One of my very close friends, you probably know him, Pops Mensah Bonsu. He's doing some nice things back in Ghana, and hopefully I can get involved soon.
Yeah, talking about getting involved soon. Have you been following the trajectory of Ghana basketball lately?
Not much, no. I don't know enough.
Wow, okay. And talking about them still, would you like to get involved with some role at some point with the Ghana basketball national team?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's it's the same thing that happened here with South Sudan. So people ask, how you're Ghanaian and you're working with South Sudan. They say that. But me and Lowell Den, we grew up together. I've known him for like over 27 years. So he just asked me to be a member of his staff. He needed help to get it off the ground initially back in 2020, and I jumped on board. I didn't know it would be this. So, same thing for Ghana. When it's built or something needs to be established, and if they would want me involved, I'm a phone call or a Zoom call away. It's not a problem.
Okay. So do you think the South Sudan story is something Ghana can emulate, or we also need to go with our own unique path?
No, I think it is something that not just Ghana, but as a lot of African countries can emulate because there's talent all over the place. So let's say with South Sudan, before joining the organization, I didn't know that there were so many players around the globe from South Sudan who could really, really play at a high level. And I'm sure that's the same with Ghana. There's some guys in the NBA, I'm sure, guys in high level Europe, Australia, or in Asia that we can band together that would like to play for their country. Like me personally, I played for Great Britain. So I was born and raised there. And I played for Great Britain because there wasn't a national team for me to play for in Ghana. If there was back then, this was, from 2008 to 2013 when I played, I would have loved to have played for Ghana. But, the rules are, as a senior, you're only allowed to play for one national team. So that can never be for me. So we're going to create that and we can get those guys who haven't already committed to a national team to play for Ghana, then would I be involved? I'll be involved, yes.
So let's talk about your transition into scouting. Could you
Mhm.
talk about your involvement with the Bucks? How did you get involved with them? How did you transition into scouting, and how did you get the role? What is even your role there as a scout with the Bucks?
Yeah, so my role is as an international scout. There's three of us who are international scouts, but we have about 13 scouts altogether. My role came about because of going to Africa. So first going to Ghana, and then I was involved in BWB, Basketball Without Borders, and some other stuff with NBA Africa for 6, 7 years. I was paying for my own flights and hotels just to volunteer to understand the landscape. And then, when Milwaukee wanted to tap into Africa, they were looking for people, and I got recommended. Had the necessary interviews, showed them, scouts that I had already done, and they brought me on board for that initially, and then it expanded into a permanent role where I'm now scouting across Europe as well.
Okay, let's still maintain the scouting role in Africa. So, what
Mhm.
are you looking to achieve without scouting role in Africa?
Well, for me, it's always been is to highlight the talent that is on the continent, you know, because there's a lot of players that put in a lot of work, but they're not getting the shine. So, if I can build up my position and then I can be the, almost the conduit that can connect, you know, schools or teams to these players to get the spotlight on them. That's what I really wanted to do, because when I was going around, there's guys like, damn, if only somebody had found them when they were 14 or 16 or 17, but now they're 22, 23. It's a bit too late, especially for the NBA. So I want to be able to put the spotlight on the younger guys, developing guys early, and then keep track on them. So when they do get draft eligible, they can be the next guy up.
So, since you started the scouting role, have you found any talents that are potentially reaching the NBA level?
There's been a few, yeah, but there's a guy recently, he got drafted by the Toronto Raptors, Boris Chomche. There's guys at the NBA Academy right now who go to big time Division 1 schools. Um, Over the few years, they put players in front of us and we evaluate if they're good for us, good for our team. But from a scouting position, when you scout for a team, it's limited to just your team. But there's guys I've scouted, but other teams have picked them up. So for me, as an African, if they come to my team, they come to my team. But as long as they're somewhere, they're pro and they're living out their dreams, can take care of their families. Like I'm really impartial. I don't care as long as they can fulfill their dream.
Okay. Now let's talk about your role with South Sudan. How did you get into the team as an assistant coach?
Yeah, so that's a longer story because, as I said before, me and Lawal, we grew up together, playing basketball. At the time, he was 12 and I was 15, so I'm 42 years old now. And we just had a long-standing friendship. And when he started doing his South Sudan camps, I was involved as one of the coaches there. And so it was kind of a natural progression. When he took over the federation in 2019, and then finally took over a coaching position, head coach position in 2020, he contacted me one day during lockdown in London and was like, "Yo, I'm taking over. Are you free? I want you to be one of my assistants. I need someone that can connect with the players." And I was like, "Yeah, it's lockdown. I got nothing going on. What do you need?" He goes, "Can you fly out tomorrow?" I was like, "Tomorrow?" I was like, "All right." So he flew me out to Rwanda. And this is for the qualifiers for AfroBasket. And I didn't know what it would be. I was just helping out my boy. That's what it was. And coaching, I love, being involved with basketball. And it just developed into, 4 years later with this.
So for those of us who don't know, like what was involved in the whole journey of qualifying for the Olympics for the first time, looking at South Sudan, as I've said already, it's a country that about 15 years ago didn't exist. What went into it, making history qualifying for the Olympics, and your performance there as well were really inspiring.
So obviously it starts before with developing talent, right? So once the talent is out there, because we had a lot of guys who were playing Division One, playing pro in Australia, Asia, a few guys in the NBA. Starts with that. But then it's about banding the guys together that are available during these certain qualification windows. So our first few windows was just for AfroBasket. The only guys that were available were our guys that were in Australia and some guys who were in college as well. But they did an amazing job. They listened to instruction. They started playing a newer brand of basketball that Lawal implemented first. More of the NBA futuristic style, run, gun, space the floor, high intensity kind of stuff, rather than slow, bruising inside kind of play. So for us, it was first getting out of zone 5 and then qualifying for AfroBasket. And once we started going through those qualification rounds, especially for the second time round, we started going into the World Cup qualifications. And that's when things started to really change because now that we had gained some notoriety, some of the other players who were just looking like, okay, what's going on now? They wanted to be involved. So I was able to bring some of our more experienced players in. And that's when we started making noise in the qualifications, beating established teams like Senegal and Tunisia and Egypt. And then we qualified for the World Cup. And then when we got to the World Cup last year, then that's when people started noticing on a global scale, okay, these guys, I think, they can play. And then it came down to the final game against Angola. And that's when we qualified for the Olympics. And that was, I didn't know that could even happen for us. But that was that. And then when we found out the Olympics was a real thing, then it was just about which guys can we get in, who can bring to training camp. And you have the story in South Sudan, there's no indoor courts and things like that. So, fortunately, because of who Lawal is as a person and what he's done and professionally, he has good connections, especially in Rwanda. They let us use the facilities and we got accommodation, nice hotels, transportation, everything was taken care of. So was able to have our training camps there. So that was big place we've had many training camps there, in fact. I won't even lie, we have a lot of training camps there, thanks to Rwanda as well. So it really helped. And those are the little steps, AfroBasket to World Cup to Olympics.
Wow. So what impact has qualifying for the Olympics had on South Sudan as a country?
I didn't realize the impact that it had until I was there. I've been there twice now, to Juba specifically, and I've realized how it's kind of riled up the people in unity. Everyone's screaming SSD, SSD, wearing the jerseys and T-shirts, and it's it's created unity. And we were told by, one of the ministers that we as a team, through what we're doing through basketball, have done more than they've been able to do as far as uniting the country in the last 10 to 15 years, and they've been able to do. And that's a testament to our guys, to their work ethic, to the program, and to the vision.
So now let's talk about your participation in the Olympics. For you as a player personally, I was just listening to an interview the last time. You said you couldn't play at the Olympics as a player, and now you've been there as a coach. Personally, what's the impact of working with South Sudan had on you?
It was just a sense of accomplishment, really, because as a player, to play, there's a shelf life for what you can do, and then when the ball stops bouncing for you, you're like, damn, this is it. Like, there's no more I can do in the sport. You know what I'm saying? So, when I played, I won championships. I won 3 in Japan. I won a couple in England as well. And then to be able to achieve something on the coaching level too, it's almost like a continuation, It keeps me fulfilled, it keeps me going, it keeps me motivated, and I'm doing it with a great group of guys, a great group of players that put forth energy and effort. So they make the job easy. They listen to instructions. They want to work. They want more work. And as a coach, like I can do nothing but keep giving them more of myself.
So I'm talking about your whole campaign at the Olympics as a team. Are you disappointed? How are you viewing your whole journey there? You've missed out on qualifying narrowly. If you had lost by just 1 point yesterday against Serbia, you would have qualified. But there's no shame in losing to a team like Serbia in the USA. They are potential medalists. So how are you viewing your whole campaign at the Olympics?
Well, it's a step. It's a step one. Each year was a step, but then there's an amalgamation. This is step one. There's a lot of things we can learn, a lot of things we could have done better and will do better next time around. But as you said, it's nothing to look down upon, because when we had the draw, I knew it was going to be tough because Puerto Rico, last year in the World Cup, we lost to them in overtime. So we knew it was going to be tough. Team USA, I don't have to tell you about Team USA, great guys. And Serbia last year also in the World Cup, we lost to them by 30. So we knew it was going to be tough, but we felt that we had something. So what happens this year in the Olympics? We beat Serbia by 11. No, sorry, we beat Puerto Rico by 11. First game, amazing. We play USA first in the showcase, lose by 1. Then we end up losing by 17. And then we lose to Serbia by 11 in the second game. But then they have the MVP.
Are you looking at going back to the Olympics with South Sudan, or you want to go back there as the main man, like the head coach, instead of the assistant? Which of them are you looking at now?
That's an interesting one. As a head coach, I'm not sure, especially because of time constraints, especially if I'm scouting. It takes a lot. And I like my role as an assistant because each assistant plays a certain role to the best of their skill set that helps the team. So, my skill set, I know, is to be able to connect with the players on a personal level. And as a head coach, sometimes you can't do that, you know. So I'm fine with that position because what I do know, even if I am an assistant, is that where the team will be as far as notoriety and fame or backing would be at a high position. So even as a system, the system would be a high position because when I first started this, people don't know. I think you probably read this stuff. This wasn't paid.
Yes.
None of it was. This was purely because my brother contacted me and asked me to be involved. That was it. So now it can be something completely different, which I'm thankful for.
So talking about wanting to maintain your role as an assistant coach for the meantime, so does it mean if the Ghana Basketball Federation contact you to take over as the head coach, you turn that down?
Would I turn it down? No. That's a conversation. That's a that's a conversation I would have. If they are starting something and then if they are like, Flo, we could use somebody like you on board. And listen, the South Sudan is here on the shirt, but Ghana's still here in the blood still. So you understand,
Yes.
you understand. So but as anything goes, for me, first is always Africa, Africa first, and then we'll spread it out from there.